Shalom, when the self souls by giving no praise to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushua, Bashem Kalkadash. Double honors to the apostle, great Most and honors to you brothers doing the work, the most in truth and in sincerity. Yahweh's real name of whom the world ignorantly calls God, Jehovah, Yahweh. His real name is Yahweh. The son's true name is Yahweh Shai, and when we pray Yahweh, Ba Hashem, Yahushua, Ba meaning in, Ha meaning that, and Sham meaning names, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai. Real quick, I just wanted to touch on this real quick. Something I remember seeing years ago, right? You kind of see just these lakes of black, if you will, right? And this is ultimately just these heathens, right? In fact, let's grab this, and then also let's load up this right in Sirach. Right, so this is Revelation 11 and 8. And the nations were angry, and the wrath is come, the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants, the prophets, unto the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. Right now, primarily, we look at Esau when we bring this precept out, right? But let's be honest, right? The scriptures speak about Babylon and Asia, right? Right. This is Second Ezra's 15 and 46. It says, "And thou, Asia, that art partaker of the hope of Babylon, and art the glory of her person." Okay. See if there's any more on that. Yeah. So the different Asian countries, whatever, right? But basically, we understand that these two, yeah, in the mainstream, they may fight against each other and whatever, what have you, right? Plotting and all of that stuff, right? But at the end of the day, right, as has been said before, right, the America can't live without China, and China can't live without America, which is why when you read Revelation 18, right, which I'll load, I don't know if I'll get it, but I'll load it, right. It goes into how basically the different merchants stand afar off, right, basically watching, which ultimately I'll probably will get it just because this is pretty much what this whole article's about, right? So it says, and I did want to get this is Sirach 10 and 8, not 8, 4, right? So the power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, right? And in due time he'll set over it one that is profitable, right? And what we understand is that this Edomite isn't profitable, but neither are these other heathen nations, right? Right, the only ones that are profitable are the Israelites in their right frame of mind, and that's what we're looking forward to. That's the only time wherein righteousness will be, throughout the world, right? In fact, that's what the scripture says, right? Let's grab that in 2 Peter 3. Right, in 13, right, it says, "Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and the new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness." Right, the righteousness, not just in terms of how people live, but how the earth is managed, which is part of how people live, right? This is what we're seeing in this what we're seeing in this world, right? It's just a mess. Okay, so it says poison. So this is in articles on the BBC laws. If I remember, I'll put it in the description box. But as you see, poison water and scarred hills. Right, it says when you stand on the edge of Bayan Obo, all you see is an expanse of scarred grey earth, right, carved into the grassland of Inner Mongolia in northern China. Dark dust clouds rise from deep craters where the Earth's crust has been sliced away over decades of in search of a medium treasure, so a modern treasure. Slakia says you may not have heard of this town, but life as we know it could grind to a halt without Bayan Obo. Right, because I'd heard of a Ganju, but I'd never heard of Bayan Obo, right? So, and that's why you see all of these billionaires and stuff coming out of places like China, and even multi-millionaires. You go through London, right, and you see some of the expensive ass properties, right? Like in fact, let me just show you just kind of crazy how what do you call it? In fact, let me do Battersea, what do you call it? Power station apartments, right? Let's do for sale. No, let's not do for sale. For rent, right? And see, we open up what kind of prices we're dealing with here, right? And the reason I'm bringing this out, just showing this, right, is for the most part these will be owned by these Chinese students, right? Literally, you go around certain of these areas in London. Nine Elms being one, which is another area not too far from. It's basically South London, right? Anywhere close to a university, Stratford, you get the same, right? Is just young Chinese students. Why? Because in the rush to quote unquote feed the world, a lot of man became very, very, very wealthy. Okay, so it goes on to say back in the article, it says the town gets its name from the district that it's in, which is home to half of the world's supply of a group of metals known as rare earths. Right now, when you look at the term rare earth, right, you may think, let me do that, right. You may think that it actually means something that is rare, right? But it's not, right? I'm just trying to get a decent article here. Let me just go to Wikipedia. There we go. Right, so this is rare earth minerals are a rare earth mineral contains one or more rare earth elements as major metal constituents. Rare earth minerals are usually found in association with alkaline or pair alkaline igneous magmas in pegmatites or with carbonatite intrusives. That is, yeah, that's a bit of a mouthful, that, right? It says perovskite mineral phases are common host to rare earth elements within the alkaline complexes. Kind of want to say, let me just read this, right. Rare earth minerals are rare because rare earth elements have unique geochemical properties that prevent from easily forming minerals and are therefore not normally found in deposits large or concentrated enough for mining. This is the reason that they are called rare, right? So it's not the fact that there's not a lot of it, it's just it's very hard to mine. Okay, but once again, it's like the terminology that they use, because we hear rare, we think, oh, there's not a lot of it, but actually there is a lot. It's just very hard to mine. So you could argue, hard to mine minerals. It's still catchy, if you will, but yeah, that's the point, right? So we can't carry on. So we found man-made lakes full of radioactive sludge and heard claims of polluted water, and that's what I started off with Revelation 11 and 8, right? It says these journeys were challenging. Beijing appears sensitive to criticism of its environmental record, right? And this is it. This is when you look at, because this is the thing with E, right? He'll go over there and be like, look how bad they are, right? But then you look at what E is doing in other parts of the world, right? And it's just as bad, if not worse. Okay, but even still, whether it's Ma, but then we read the judgment for the destruction to this planet, right? And then we also understand, right, that the Lord ultimately, right, is not gonna leave these heathens unpunished for the destruction that they've made, right? It was gonna make a different point, but it escaped me, so slucky for that, right? Right. Oh, so I was gonna say, yeah, because he may try and be like, oh, look at Moab and them, right? But ultimately, it's to do what? It's to fuel the Western world, right? It says authorities have been making an effort to clean up these mining sites. Scientists told the BBC, right? It says machines are constantly on the hunt, and what you're seeing now, right, is a lot of these machines being automated, right? Because what we're entering into a world, right, where basically there just isn't a lot of work for man, right? So this is Ecclesiastes 12. Start from verse 3, right? This is in the day when the keys of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out the windows be darkened, and the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low, right? When the sound of the grinding is low, representing work, right? We're coming into a time when there isn't gonna be a lot of work, right? And what's that gonna do? That's gonna get people, dependent on the system, right? Which is what Esau wants, and what you're seeing happen in Asia, right? What you're seeing happen, in some of the more actually advanced countries, because they'll lump, America, and America is lagging behind, okay, right? But basically, the model that they're going for, right, is one of high automation, which is effectively going to leave a load of people jobless, right? Um, I'm just looking for something real quick. I'm trying to see. Let me see. Is this what we want? Yeah. So I'd watched a video on it, but you know how YouTube is, so I'm not gonna pull up the video. Right, it says China one ups is from InsideEVs.com. It says China one ups the world with the first driverless electric mining truck. Right. Okay, so you basically just, and I remember the video that I was watching, right, was basically just showing a whole bunch of the trucks just moving around, right, and you're seeing it there. So there's no driver there, and whether it's remotely controlled, because remote controlled mining's been around for a while, right, but it was basically trying to purporting, let me phrase it like that, right, but basically purporting it such that like oh, you see it there, right? So it says at the Yimin mine, telecom giant and EV maker newcomer Huawei deployed a 5G advanced network so that trucks can communicate with each other and the server room. The mobile network has a 500 megabits, right? This is once again Esau and the way he talks, right? Which why whenever you watch like adverts for internet, they'll say meg, right? Because a megabyte and a megabit are two very different things. A megabyte is M with a capital B. A megabit is M with a lowercase b, right? And the difference is a factor of 8, right? There are 8 bits in 1 byte. So really this is, let me just do the calculation over here. So really this is 62.5 megabytes uplink, right, and a 20 millisecond latency, which is said to be enough for high def video backhaul and cloud based dispatching. Moreover, Huawei provided the AI algos for open pit mining, right? So, we're coming into a world where there ain't even going to be any work like that, right? Just gonna have these robots, because if with desk jobs, of course, yeah, people's automated, it is what it is. Okay, you become a builder, but now it's like looking like even building stuff is becoming automated. Okay, so that's even on that. That's what this place got to go, right? But because I ain't read anything in a minute, let me just jump over and grab this. Right, this is Isaiah 24:5, right? It says the earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant, right? So that's what you're basically seeing, right? So it says satellite images from the last few decades show how Obo mine has spread, right? So you see it was just kind of like, in fact, that's not even the right one. Yeah, bugged out. Let me refresh the page. Yeah, so it starts like this, right? All right, so tailings. So they said, what do they call tailings? But basically that's like where the deposits are, the waste deposits, right? Right, so it says as of 1999, that's how it looked, right? Here the tailings, right? Huge piles of waste material, right? And you see that it's going to get bigger, right? This is by 2013, right? A new pit was growing, and you're basically just seeing this, and even just looking at it, it's like, yeah, that don't look right, man. Okay, and then you see how it is. Would you call it? Now, basically, right, or more or less now, right? So it says further south in the mining hub, blah blah blah, concrete ponds full of toxic waste, and it's just like, wait, there's toxic. It's like there ain't no lid, right? If there's a landslide or whatever, that's just going into, into the environment, right? And they interview a farmer, right, and stuff like that. Okay, so let me, yeah, then people coming out, and the people that work at the company, trying to stop the filming and recording and reporting and stuff like that, right? And this is something I found very interesting, because as the demand for pocket gadgets, right, because basically all of this stuff fuels this modern world, right? But in the kingdom, we ain't gonna need any of this. Okay, we're gonna be operating on completely different. We're just going to be operating different, okay? So as the demand for pocket gadgets, electric vehicles, solar panels, MRI machines, and jet engines surged, there was one worrying statistic. to contend with. Mining just 1 ton of rare earth minerals creates some 2,000 tons of toxic waste. Okay, that's why ultimately E and this power structure, right, has to go. Like, once again, they may be like, this is charm, but this is to do what? This is to feed the Western world. Okay, which is why it says, other nations of, say others, including the United States, are in a hurry to catch up with their own rare earth enterprises, right? So basically, just saying like this is what they want, right? This is Revelation 18. I'm gonna start from 9. It says, "And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her," right? And that's why I showed you the clip, not the clip, but the house prices. It was just a random spot, but it's just like you may be looking at those, but a lot of the times those won't be rented by Brits, right? Those will be rented by these young Chinese students that have been sent over because their parents, maybe they may not be billionaires, but they're multi-millionaires. Okay. So let me carry on. Right, so standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, "Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is that judgment come," right? Because America's going to be destroyed in a literal 1 hour. Okay, it says, and the merchants, right, of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more, the merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones, and of pearls and fine linen, and purple and silk and scarlet, and all theine wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory, and all manner of vessels of most precious wood, and of brass and iron and marble, right, and cinnamon and odors, and ointment and frankincense, and wine and oil and fine flour, and wheat and beasts and sheep, and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men, right? Says, and the fruits, and that's it, right? All of these things that have basically been sent to America and stuff like that, right? Have made it had made them rich, right? And it's also fed America. Okay, let me jump to verse 17. "For in 1 hour so great riches, right, is come to naught, and every shipmaster and all the company in ships and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off, right, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? Right, and they cast dust on their heads, right, cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city wherein we were made rich, all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness, for 1 hour is she made desolate." Right, and they're going to be mourning because they ain't going to have anyone to sell their goods to. Okay, but that is what it is, man. All right, so once again, as always, Lord, with us edifying. Till next time, we say shalom.